don't really have any vocal influences. I mean, I just try to sing the songs that I like. I have a lot of guitar influences because I've studied it for years and I love it. Like you were speaking about jazz players, I love those exact players, but like John Scofield, for example, like I listen to his stuff, and at all times it's like he is on the verge of losing it. You know, like, oh, I'm barely keeping up with the song, and then somehow it just turns it magical and puts that behind the beat swing to it a little bit. I just like the way that feels, and that's how, like you're saying, it's an extension of an emotion, like the one note.
I love that dancing on the edge of chaos.
But being able to let go is the hardest thing as a musician, not worry about if people like you or not. Because, I mean, probably everyone could sing if they weren't afraid of people going, you're terrible.
Yeah.
Or worried about what people think. And I just had to come to the conclusion, a lot of people are going to dislike me either way.
Right.
You know? I mean, so I might as well just do it.
Be yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. And it's worked out positively for us.
Who's some West Tennessee influences? Who are some people like in the area who have been instrumental for you guys?
Oh, wow. Well, me and Dave have been playing together for 20 years almost.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah, and we started with a band called the Smoking Jackets here in Jackson. So I grew up with Jonathan Singleton, which I don't know if you guys know who he is, and his brother. We grew up. They're from Lexington, Tennessee, and I'm from Parsons, and we've been playing together since we were in elementary school. And those are two of the best singers still to this day I've ever heard.
Amazing.
Unbelievable. And just us getting the opportunity to play, like from Jerry Gay, who's around. I think he's still doing business here. Isn't he putting on the amphitheater events downtown now?
I think he helps with the amp stuff.
He's always been, really supportive of music.
Yeah.
Local businessman who supported music.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
he's
fed us.
Also a musician himself, I believe.
Yeah, well, he kept us fed. We had the house gig at
Barley's. We
which
played
is gone
Barley's
now.
for 3 nights a week for years.
And we changed the name to The Grove, which is still called Jonathan Singleton and The Grove. And then me and Dave went elsewhere and started touring. I moved to Nashville and became just a hired guitar player. Really, the beauty of the West Tennessee music is that we all just kind of do this. We all just work together and show up and help each other. Like when I went to Nashville, the reason there's such good bands here is that people work together as a band. You can go to Nashville, and no offense to Nashville by any means because it's full of fantastic players, but you could go to Broadway down there and I could sit and have a beer and listen to the bands, and everybody would play a solo, and it would be the most amazing thing I'd ever heard in my life. But when they play as a band, it doesn't sound good. No. So I'm like, why does this sound terrible when every one of you are so amazing? It's because they're working for themselves.
Right.
And here, we're not in it for the money because we're all broke and we don't make any money. We're in it for the love of the music. I don't know, it's just a spiritual thing, and I believe it's in the water and the mud here.
In my opinion, if you treat music as if it's a competitive sport, then Nashville is what it sounds like. To me, here in this area particularly, there's such a solidarity, and Scotty had touched on it when we played. He said something about how we're all just struggling to keep the lights on, and I believe art thrives on restrictions, and when you've got a talent pool like this and they're all just kind of being kept down, by whatever restrictions, whether it's social mores or whatever, it's. I mean, this is what you get. You get an insanely creative talent pool, and it's in all flavors. Any flavor you want, it's here.
That's wonderful. So, if we were to take a look back at like all from starting from we can go back further than Carl Perkins. We could Sonny Boy Williamson. We could go back to Ragtime, even the trains that
St.
came
Louis.
through Jackson, right? The fact that you can see the Heartline going from the Mississippi River all the way up, from New Orleans to Chicago, just hitting all those places. It seems like they got off in Memphis and then they stayed kind of in between Memphis and Nashville in a way, and that's where it is. we are kind of bred with that almost here in West Tennessee. Would you agree that there is something in the water here?
Absolutely, I would. But this past year I played approximately 300 shows across the country, everywhere. It's like Memphis and Nashville are famous for music, but it's because it's the big cities close to here. Most of it comes in from between. I mean, like I'm from Parsons, and I tell people I'm from Parsons, they can't find it on a map, so they assume Memphis or Nashville. So they get a lot of credit for the talent that comes out of here, and that's just born and raised here. I mean, it is in the water.
Well, I think it's in the cornbread. It's in the buttermilk and cornbread, man. When you sat down with I can remember when I was a little tyke and sitting and on my way to my great grandmother's in Rutherford, Tennessee, on the radio, listening to Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn and that was real country, man. I'm sorry.
Don't we have a blend though here? Don't we have the gospel?
Exactly.
We have the blues. Mm-hmm. We have that old hillbilly music, basically from Jimmy Rogers to the Carter family, that's blended together. And there's something about the family. There's something about this kind of torn between heaven and hell kind of feeling. Son House preaching on Sunday morning, and playing blues at night. There's something about this area that breeds that kind of internal conflict that goes back to what you were talking about, that this fight, because when you're traveling all over the world and you get back here, you see what? What do you see when you get back?
Home. Yeah. But the reason I think a lot of it comes down, I know I say the water, but it comes from lack of money or lack of things to do. Like me growing up in Parsons, when we got together on the weekends or in the evenings, we have 2 gas stations, that's it. We could ride the L-shaped strip for a little while, or we could go to the river and play guitar and entertain ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens. I mean, I think that's why, like my family, we had music night. None of my family on my mother's side ever pursued it as a career, really. They do it for love, and it's a family bonding thing. My step-grandfather, he was a professional country songwriter. Like, he wrote the B-side to Stand By Your Man, which I don't even know what the name of that song was, but I know it worked out well for him. And, he knew like 4 guitar chords. And my other grandfather has got perfect pitch, and they never cared about it. And they raised me to play, and I'm like, maybe if I could get a little bit of that and this together and pursue it and get it out there. But it's really more of a family bonding thing. To me.
That's great.
And it is. And I think it is for all of us. Yeah. And the lack of things to do, which it scares me for youth now because of technology.
Cell phones, yeah.
It's like you got to be bored to be creative. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I don't know if the world will ever see great painters like we used to because it's so easy to take a picture or video.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the one hand, it's what you make it. Because, these days, if I had been able to look up YouTube instructional videos for my instrument when I was 15, 16, 17, I probably would have done it. So in that sense, people growing up now in this digital age have it a lot better. Potentially.
I have to bring this into that, though. The creative part, because when you don't have instructional videos, you have to create it. I mean, the rules that we've all learned on music, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, is just something someone wrote down to try to translate what they had come up with.
And sound.
Yeah, how to have someone
organize
to
sounds.
Tell it to someone else. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the only rules are rules that we've put on ourselves. Mm-hmm. A lot of people get stuck in them when they have too much instruction. That's why I like playing, because I've been schooled in music, and I like playing with someone that hasn't, because they will do things that theoretically does not make sense.
Right.
And it makes
But it sounds good.
It sounds good. I mean, really, that's the whole gist of it. That's why people play jugs and stuff like that, because it was sitting there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like somebody play a bass beat. Let me get this here. Boom, boom, boom. It's going to take the creative edge away, that the fact that they're watching so much instruction, and start thinking of it as a dexterity thing rather than
It's just a place to start not a place to end. I believe if someone really wants their voice to be heard and they've got something to say, the resources now available allow them to get their voice heard in a much bigger way than we had access to when we were growing up.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
Exit 82 airs weekly directly following Saturday Night Live.